Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. In this particular game, I will be playing the Vampire accounts, and I'm going to be facing off against an Empire opponent. So it should be a lot of fun. My army is led by Vlad von Karstein, who I've been having a lot of fun with lately, and I also do have the Dire Pack over there. So my opponent and I are both using some Regiments of Renown, so hopefully you guys will enjoy that. Quick rundown of the army composition. I have a front line of Skeleton Spearmen. Decided to just try out these guys with the anti-large, because I had been playing some Empire opponents who were being very cost effective in terms of their cycle charging with cavalry and those type of things. So just experimenting a little bit and seeing how they work out for me. So in the secondary line, Graveguard are a great choice against Empire. They're armored, shielded, can take decent amount of missile fire, and also do have anti-infantry bonuses. So pretty good choice. And again, a lot of Empire infantry spearmen and those type of guys don't have a lot of armor, so these guys will do pretty well against them. In the back, I do have one group of Graveguard with great weapons. Ideally, I will be able to get these onto great swords or other targets like that, and they will pay their dues. I have a Mortis Engine for the regeneration, and then I also have a very heavy cavalry force, the Dire Pack, some Black Knights, as well as Blood Knights. So Vlad actually works pretty well with these type of troops, because when they're about to engage enemy cavalry, you simply use a Master of Beguilement on Demogryph Knights or something like that, and it sets their melee attack to, I believe, to 0, which is really, really good, and then your cavalry can easily win those exchanges. So my opponent here, he has 2 Demogryph Knights with halberds, so again, he's investing very heavily in cavalry and is looking to win that battle. He also has the Hammer of the Witches, which is pretty good against my cavalry, and he'll probably be able to pick off quite a few before I get close to him. He has some great swords in the back, very, very good at cutting through Graveguard, then Spearmen in the front, so pretty standard Empire composition. And he also has a Light Wizard, which is going to be very annoying with the nets. And looks like he has a Warrior Priest. He has Archlector, who you don't see often. And he also has another Warrior Priest here. So Archlector is actually not a terrible choice against the Vampire accounts, because he is very heavily armored, unlike Volkmar. And in that tune, he's pretty good against Graveguard and those type of things, and can sometimes last a little bit longer. So he is not a bad choice, and he definitely is one of the coolest looking characters in this game. Just take a nice look at this guy here. So anyways, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Should be a fun matchup. So I'm just advancing in my opponent, and I am already taking cannon fire, and you can see he's made good contact here. That type of hammer, this one in particular, the Hammer of the Witches, that type of hammer, the Hammer of the Witches itself, the Regiments of Renown Great Cannon, is really, really good at taking out big targets like the Mortis Engine, Blood Knights, all those type of things. And you can see he's taking pot shots, and those Blood Knights just went flying over there, and they're probably going to continue to take some fire here. So my opponent, again, doing a really good job with his targeting, making sure not to waste any volleys. Every one of these volleys is hitting high-value targets, whether it be Graveguard, the Mortis Engine, Blood Knights, anything like that. So thankfully, my Mortis Engine is regenerating. You can see its health slowly starting to tick up, but unfortunately for me, my opponent does use the Nets of Amnatok there and locks me down. So he did use the Overcasted version, which does have an extended effect duration, so that's going to last basically an eternity. So right now, he's kind of just sitting back with his Demogryph Knights, so I decided I didn't want to swing out here because he would be able to bring his Spearmen out and really turn the tide of that battle and tie me up. So I was kind of just posturing back and forth with these guys while advancing my ranks at the same time. So right now, I'm continuing to take cannon fire, and it's definitely tough. My Mortis Engine is taking a lot of damage, so I'm hoping I'll be able to heal that up with an Invocation and a Heck here. So I was gathering my forces right here. You know, what you don't want to do in this situation is engage these troops while these ones are tied up back here, because then he'll be able to overwhelm you. And he has 2 Warrior Priests who are going to be pretty good at buffing the power of these Spearmen. Just having them among the Spearmen with the different buffs that they can provide is going to be pretty good. And Warrior Priests themselves don't have armor piercing, but regardless, they can really cut through skeleton, and they do have a bombardment ability, which is pretty good against Vampire accounts fodder. So something to consider, guys. So right now, I'm getting my forces, getting them ready for melee, advancing my Skeleton Spearmen as well as my Graveguard, just going after his Spearmen. So it's pretty much a low-tier infantry matchup here, and Archlector is just going to be absolutely awesome and get a nice little charge here. Warrior Priests and these type of characters are just so freaking cool. So he charges in there and just takes a bunch of skeletons with him, but that was fine because Vlad is just waiting for him, and Vlad is just going to lay into this guy. But something to consider is that Archlector is very heavily armored, and you can see, look at all those different buffs he has. It's pretty incredible. And Vlad doesn't have armor piercing himself, so he's not going to just cut through that guy. So I bring my cavalry in for just a quick moment, and then I'm going to use my Invocation of Nehek. I was trying to just get a heal off before I went and dealt with his cavalry, but he did get a really good, well-timed net. So now I'm kind of in a bad situation in which these Demogryph Knights are going to come around and just be able to get a charge here, so I was definitely nervous about that. So in this battle line, the Warrior Priests are just cutting through my fodder. Things are going pretty well, and he's just continuing to net me down and just being really, really cost-effective in terms of his micro, and you can see his Wizard here is putting in some work with his beat stick as well. So my opponent gets ready to come in with these Demogryph Knights, and I immediately use Vlad's Master of Beguilement. So their melee attack is now 0. So they're not going to really do anything when they charge in here. And my guys, my Blood Knights, are able to get a decent engagement, actually, considering they were netted. And the Master of Beguilement kind of broke that charge for me. So that was really solid. And these guys are also in the range of the Mortis Engine here and are receiving some good heals. So right here, Archlector, or that's not Archlector, that Warrior Priest is continuing to fight, but these Graveguard are actually getting through to him, so I was happy about that. And I was also able to get the Dire Pack up and around and then pull them into flank on these guys. So that was a pretty good situation, as the Dire Pack do have anti-large. So these Demogryph Knights are actually taking a little bit of a beating right now, which is good. I have a decent little surround here. The one thing I would do differently in retrospect is just pull the Black Knights around and flank these cannons, but getting tied up with the nets, and I felt like they were already engaged here, so I wanted to stay the course and hopefully be able to win this quickly. I also brought Vlad over and used an Invocation of Heck. Vlad isn't inherently strong against Demogryph Knights, but, you know, again, he's just a very strong character in general, and I figured the Demogryph Knights come in such small numbers that he would be able to get through them and help out, so, because this was a crucial battle. Whoever comes out ahead here is going to have a serious advantage. So my opponent uses the net of Emnatok again and locks down my troops while he makes his escape. So definitely very, very good micro on his part in terms of using that ability. And right here, Archlector is in here fighting. He's just such a cool looking character. And that's actually not Archlector. I keep getting him confused. There he is right here. And he's just slaying these guys and doing pretty good work. But I do have my White King on him. And also the Graveguards with great weapons are here fighting. So that's a bit of an issue for him. And you can see he's starting to take damage because these guys do have armor piercing. And the White King himself is also quite a force to be reckoned with in that respect. So back here, I also have some Skeleton Spearmen. And this is kind of just a fodder battle back here, which was fine. And I wasn't prioritizing this cannon, although I definitely should have. That was a big mistake on my part because he was able to take out my Mortis Engine. But he is firing into his ranks and hitting some of his own troops there, so definitely a risky gambit. But you can see my Graveguard are still taking a beating. But in the really important battle over here, this is continuing to develop. These Blood Knights are just going fisticuffs with these guys, and it is a very, very tight battle. And they're holding really well considering that these guys, these Blood Knights, have anti-large and are just really, really good in this matchup. So I'm finally getting through them. I use another Master of Beguilement to make sure that they're not going to generate much value. And again, putting a huge emphasis on this battle here. Over in the center, the Graveguard are just, fighting its greatswords, but this is a good matchup for me. Relatively even. They have infantry, anti-infantry, armor piercing, and so do his guys. So this is literally just a dead even matchup. But Archlector comes in here and is just causing havoc. And I was just chasing him around with my White King trying to finish him off, because if I can get him, a lot of these low tier infantry like Spearmen and other troops that he has fighting who are, they don't have the best leadership right now. These ones are in the 50s, but these ones were in the 40s, and these guys over here have 16. So if I were able to take out Archlector here, his troops would just dissipate. But regardless, Archlector is very, very tough. He's pretty heavily armored and won't go down without a fight. So the cavalry battle kind of finalized here. He has a few Demogryph Knights left. I did lose almost all my cavalry, but Vlad von Karstein came out unscathed. And once he gets into the main battle here, it's going to be trouble for my opponent. And he's just a great duelist, very good at taking out these type of troops, and is very, very hard to kill. So that's something that's pretty great about Vlad. I do have my White King. You guys can see he's chasing down the Archlector. But my opponent, again, very good with that net micro. He does slow down the White King, and, again, I had to re-micro him, and things are going pretty well here. White King is sent back on Archlector, and he should be able to get him, or at least keep him off the battlefield. And my main forces were able to finally break through, and you can see Vlad just absolutely awesome character, just covered in blood, just looking for people to hunt down. But I don't have a whole lot left, to be honest. I have, a few troops, some skeletons, some Graveguard, those type of things. And it's pretty cool seeing him lead all those skeletons in the battle here. Did he just try and backhand that guy? That's pretty funny. I've never seen that animation. So I have some Graveguard left. I have Vlad. I believe I have the Stearnsmen over here, who are just such a good unit. So I did use Invocation and Heck on them. Although, in retrospect, they probably were already at their healing cap. But these guys are just so good. They were taking some huge damage all game. They were fighting the Archlector, Warrior Priest, and they're still in such good health. So in these really long, atrocious battles, I can't speak enough about how good the Stearnsmen are, and I think they're an auto-include in almost every Vampire Count army. So I finally get back to these cannons. That was definitely one of my biggest blunders this game, but Vlad is going to get in here with his sword and just play the smackdown on these guys. So freaking cool, and you can see all the Graveguard are rallying behind him, and things are going pretty well. My opponent has some Spearmen, but Archlector actually did die to this White King over there, so that was a huge issue for my opponent. He has a Light Wizard and some troops over here, but they're all wavering at this point. And in really close battles like this, the vampire counts do cause fear and terror and, you know, have a multitude of stats like that. So usually the enemy troops will rout off if they lose their enemy lord in a close battle. So right here, only a few seconds left, and that's pretty much it. But man, there was some good micro that game. Just he was definitely a very good player with those nets and was generating some pretty good results. And you can see the Hammer of the Witches did really good. He just dominated my Mortis engine and did pretty good work against my cavalry in the beginning. His nets against my cav were also quite good and allowed his Demogryph Knights to get a decent engagement, but thankfully Vlad's Master of Beguilement was able to counteract that a little bit. But regardless, still a really great game to Arvin Cobalt. I look forward to seeing you again on Ladder, and I hope you guys enjoyed that game. Have an excellent night and take care.